Hi, I'm going to be talking about emergency kits and preparing for emergencies in kind of two different settings for like childcare and educational, and then also for at home as well. I'm wanted to kind of record this video because I have an emergency kit at home, but it was in a bin that was in our garage that then had a leak, and the top of the like bin had a crack, and so there was pooled water in it, and I lost like a lot of my actual at home emergency kind of kits. Before I start off, the reason I wanted to kind of do this was I need to replenish, and I wanted to kind of take you along on my thought process as I'm doing this, but I also kind of want everybody to think about the ways that they need emergency preparedness in their own life. I was born in 1981, so I lived through like the Northridge earthquake, and then in the early 2000s we had quite a few really bad fires like come through, and I live in Fallbrook. At the time I didn't, but we had horses, and so we had to like evacuate horses, and then other times I've had to evacuate because of fires on Camp Pendleton, so I've had to evacuate a child care center, and then I also had to evacuate an infant toddler because of a gas leak. So I've gone through this personally and professionally quite a lot, and so I'm pretty like passionate about making sure that people are prepared just because of the region that we live in, and also just because you never really know what's going to happen, and so having a little bit of forethought and preparing is really important. First, you should think about like kind of what the audience is. Is it just you at home with your puppy, and you live in an apartment? You still need to think about that, especially for the puppy, or the dog or the parrot, or whoever it is. Is it you with a family? For me, at home, like I said, I live in Fallbrook, but I have tons of animals. I don't have horses anymore, but we do have pigs, goats, dogs, and chickens. And so we have kind of a preparedness for them. We have crates to put them in. We have a truck. We've tried to kind of think forward towards that, like worst case scenario and best case scenario. I also have kids. We did invest in a big fire safe that holds all of our important documents and stuff, because worst case scenario, we kind of thought if we were busy getting the animals and the children off the kind of fairly large property that we have, then we would probably be less inclined to do like pictures and birth certificates and social security cards, and so we put that in a fire safe. If professionally, you should, and then at home as well, you should think about what is the age of your child. Do you have any special needs? If for anybody in your family, do you have older adults who are less mobile? Do you have people in wheelchairs? All those types of things. Just think about what do they need if we had to leave really fast because of like a fast moving fire, a bad earthquake, and now we have a gas leak. Something like that at home. Think about having some food and water kind of prepped, but we'll go through kind of what my take is. Professionally, also think about like your audience and like who you are providing for in an emergency situation. So like an in-home program where you are like the director and maybe you have a teacher and you have 10 kids, you are going to have to be completely prepared on your own and assume all responsibility. In larger programs, a lot of times, especially if it's a larger program that is everybody like in a Head Start or a YMCA, everybody is really aware of children and stuff like that. You probably have it prepared for you, and your responsibility is just checking your own program or your own classroom regularly, and they're also probably going to help you with like thinking through the procedures. I have also noticed in larger programs that I've worked for that maybe their entire focus is not all of the time children. You have to advocate for the children in your program. So like with our military, we have a fantastic firefighting system, emergency, all of that type of stuff. But sometimes we needed to be like, oh yeah, no, like we had, I think at one classroom, or one program, we had like 20 infants, and who would be in like cribs and stuff like that, and we went through, like I said, a gas leak, and then we kind of had to talk with these kind of guys who were less involved with children about what children need when they're kind of evacuating and where we should be and all this type of stuff, because they were very singularly focused on emergencies and emergency preparedness and less on the things that I know, which is like developmentally appropriate care, what children need. And so if you have the chance to advocate in that role as well, that can also be really helpful. What we typically want is in a childcare center is that you could probably shelter in place. So in addition to our fires, our earthquakes, where we might need to shelter in place or might need to evacuate, we also have things like shooter drills for worst case scenarios where you would have to shelter quietly in place. If you don't have like things in your classroom, you might want to think about if that happened, what would you kind of need as well, and talk that through with other people at your space as well. I'm going to take you through what I have left of my emergency kit, and then kind of what I'm thinking about next things that I might need, and hopefully this will help you to think about what you need at home for all the people you're responsible for, yourself and other people and animals, or older adults, people with disabilities as well. And then also at work as well, take a look at that kit, make sure that it's appropriate, it's meeting the needs that you have now, and then ways that you can improve it, or you might think forward and say, this is what I think an issue might be, and what could I do to kind of fill that need now? Because you definitely don't want to be doing it in the moment. First thing is in this random black bag, I have all of my first aid kits. A lot of the stuff did get ruined, so I do have some like kind of older things like these antiseptic towelettes that I do need to get rid of, and make sure that nothing is expired anymore. I do have a nice first aid kit, survival kit, that has some of like the longer term things or like bigger emergencies like these foil blankets. It's got some knives. It's got like a tourniquet type information. So like if you needed to do like trauma in the field, this is like your basic kit. And then I also have like electrolyte powder that I've added, some flashlights, a lot of gloves, cold packs, and one of them got ruined, so I've got to do some more of those cold packs. I've got some ACE bandages, just kind of thinking if while we were evacuating or we were sheltering in place, if somebody got hurt, and then just also if there was, let's say, an accident, because like I said, we have animals. We're not a farm or anything, but we do love animals and we have quite a few of them. How could I provide first aid beyond just like a cut and bruise on the property before we were able to get somewhere or have emergency services come out. And also kind of imagine that an accident did happen and emergency services were very busy with a fire or something like that, and their response times were lagged. Water is a big issue for me, so I do have this Life straw, which is just for like backpacking. So what it is it's a filter gravity bag, so you can just add like dirty water to it, and then it goes through a filter, and then it produces clean water that's had the pathogens taken out. This is all I have is water. I am going to try to get some like a bottled water next, just to keep so that you could drink right away or wash your hands with if you kind of had to be at home for a while. But this filtration system I've used this like when I've gone camping before, and it does work pretty well, and it is good in an emergency if like once again you had to shelter in place for maybe a few days and the water was out. That might be a good option. One thing that I just added is I have a bunch of masks. So these are the N95 that if we all went through the pandemic together, so we all know that these are like pretty good at like filtering out dust, and they filter some pathogens and things like that. I had an extra box from COVID, so I was like, you know what, I'm going to throw those in, and those didn't get ruined, so that was great as well. I do have a little backpack, a little red backpack, so I'm going to be refilling some of my first aid supplies because some of them, especially the Band-Aids, the wraps, the gauze, they all got ruined with that leak. So eventually it's going to go out of that bag into this kind of red first aid bag, and then this would be very easy to take if I had to leave, or if there was an accident, I could very easily grab that as well. I need to replenish some of this, but I have some disinfecting wipes. I would probably add like a small bottle of bleach as well. And then I lost all of my hand sanitizer, so I would make sure that I also have that for sanitation. Once again, if you were sheltering in place for a while. So I'm probably going to have a small bottle of bleach as well, so if you needed to like sanitize or disinfect, that might also help as well. And then I'm also going to make sure that we have some water for hand washing as well with like soap and stuff, so you're not relying on hand sanitizer for the entire time. One of the big things that we lost was our food. So this is what's left of my food. I just got this at Costco. They were having a sale, but it is like backpacking type food. So this is like and they prioritize like protein and carbs, which is good in kind of emergency situations. And all this needs you can cold soak them in water, which is nice, or you can also heat them up as well. And so that's nice. If you didn't have heat, but you needed to eat, that might be really helpful. When I was a kid, my dad was in the Navy and I lived back east, and I lived through this really kind of crazy storm, this like nor'easter, and we had to shelter in place for, I think it was like 72 hours. It was actually such a famous storm. They made a movie about it called A Perfect Storm with George Clooney. But we were like in a house, we had no heat, so we were all just like staying in this one room. And I think they turned off the gas as well, so we were just like eating like Pop-Tarts and stuff like that. So it doesn't happen all of the time, no, but it has happened to me. And like I said, I lived through Northridge, which was a really kind of very big earthquake in the 90s, many earthquakes since then, and then I've had quite a few fires where, you probably lived through them, where like the whole county just kind of shuts down, right? Like you have a gigantic fire. In one case, we had to go out, and we were in the field for a couple of weeks because we had, well, not a couple of weeks, a couple of days, because we had to evacuate some animals that we had at somebody else's property because we ride horses. And so we had to like live in a field with our horse while we were kind of, because it was, I think this was the Lilac Fire or something like that. I don't know. I don't remember. Cedar Fire. It was something like that. It was one of the big, I think it was like 05, 03, somewhere around there. So that has kind of taught me ways to kind of be prepared in these different types of situations. And it's important we kind of apply this once again to childcare, where worst case scenario, what if you have to leave for quite a while and you got to grab all of your babies, all of your toddlers, the after school program, all that type of stuff. And then what if you had to shelter in place with those same type of people? We need to kind of be prepared because we have responsibility for them. Another one that I have is a charger. So this plugs into the car. So this would be like where you could plug into the car adapter. And then you could charge your phone. And then you could also charge like some kind of appliance as well. This has definitely come in handy camping and things like that. But it also has come in handy. We lost power for a while, and then I was able to go out and charge my phone, which conveniently was like at 10%. So I was able to charge for a while with that kind of adapter off of like my car's battery. I also have another really helpful one that I have is this. It's like a flashlight, but it is also, even more importantly, the radio. And then the best part about this is you can put batteries in, but it mostly works on like hand crank power as well. So like if you needed an hour of like listening to the news and knowing where the fire was, this is really good because you can put this on AM or FM, and then you can listen to like PBS or NPR, whoever it is, like the news radio stations, and you can listen for updates, because a lot of times we lose power, right? And we might lose our internet and our phone, but the radios are still going to be going and giving us information. And then this, like I said, it's also got this kind of flashlight, but it's great. I also have I've got to find it. I think I took it out. I have a big solar charger too. That's like about $6 kind of. And it was really cheap. I got it on Amazon, but it's like solar powers like that. Stick it out in the sun, and then you can charge other types of information. Then I've got a really nice flashlight. I've also got like a sewing kit with like little scissors and stuff like that. And then I have next to that, I also have like all of some fire stuff as well. Like I have a fire blanket and things like that are extra because everything on Amazon you order in 2s or 3s. So I have a fire blanket like in my kitchen, and then I have a fire extinguisher in my kitchen. Then I also have one outside next to my barbecue, and then I had extra ones, so I just threw it in here as well. So I'm really hoping that this will inspire you to go home, think about who you're responsible for: pets, animals, parents, kids, and then at work, where can you check to make sure that you have everything you need. plan a little bit forward and say, I've got tons of maybe nonverbal children with special needs. What are things extra that they might need? And then if you have the chance to advocate for other people who have all of the emergency knowledge, but maybe not the child development knowledge that we all have, if you can find ways that you can advocate as well in those spaces, it's just important for us to be prepared in any kind of situation. But I do feel like we live uniquely in a geographical location in which we do have emergencies that might happen. All right, stay safe. Thanks.